Hi everyone, I'm Vix. Welcome to my brand new One Piece YouTube channel. I decided to create this channel after I noticed that a theory I had posted on my Tumblr, which is listed in the description of my channel, was created into a video by a Brazilian One Piece YouTuber. That was kind of interesting. I had never expected it to reach that far. I don't speak Portuguese, but it was connected to me by someone who did, and I thought that was really cool, especially since they were able to get it to more people than I ever was. So now I decided to create my own. Now, despite not knowing anything about video creation or editing, so this will be fun, just a straight talk video. So this theory is kind of about how Yamato and Ace's relationship could be explained by looking at the historical parallels between Yamato and a Mongolian princess by the name of Khutulun. I'm definitely mispronouncing that, but that's not really important, and I don't even think we know how ancient Mongolian was pronounced anyway. So, Khutulun was the daughter of Kaidu Khan, who ruled parts of Mideastern Asia during the 13th century. He was the grandchild of Genghis Khan. Now, Kaidu Khan had 14 sons, but the child he adored most, the one whose political and military advice he always sought, and the one he actually tried to make his heir, was his daughter, was his daughter Khutulun. Again, this favoritism went so far that he tried to pass over all of his sons to make her his heir. This didn't come to pass due to just how inheritance laws worked, but the fact he tried said a lot. One of Khutulun's brothers, also interestingly enough, was named Urus. That probably means nothing, but I noticed how similar it was to Ors. Just thought it was neat. Now, Khutulun was famous for her skills as a warrior. She was very strong, and when Kaidu went into battle, it was Khutulun he wanted by his side, not any of his sons. And that is something we see in Yamato. Yamato is clearly very powerful. She seems to know both armament and observation hockey from her short battle with Luffy. And while I definitely put her at least a Tobi Roppo stage. Yes, she wasn't completely able to knock out Ulti, but I also don't think she was really trying to really put Ulti down. She just wanted to get Luffy and go. Now, it also doesn't seem like it, and because Yamato is using a Kabano, and also uses the Thunder Bagua attack, that says to me that even if Kaido was not directly responsible for training Yamato, he at least oversaw it. So he was definitely involved in her developing as a fighter. Probably because he wanted her by his side. Family business and all that. Piracy. Always better when you do it with family. Now, of course, Kaido and Yamato don't seem to share the close relationship that Khutulun had with her father, but he also definitely seems to want things for his child. He says that he intends to make his son the new shogun of Wano. And that is kind of basically describing making an heir situation. So there's that. Now, so that is at least two similarities we see. There's also, now most of what we know about Khutulun and just Mongol culture in general, it comes from the chronicles of Marco Polo. If you've ever seen the Marco Polo TV show, Kaido and Khutulun are actually in that show. Khutulun is played by the glorious Claudia Kim. It's actually pretty good. You should go watch it. And so in these chronicles, he describes Khutulun as being very tall, so built in, almost like a giantess. Kaido, but yes, and that is definitely something. Yamato is definitely tall. She's, I think fan estimation put her anywhere between 11 feet and 13. About more than twice the size of Luffy, definitely. So, similarity number 3. Of course, back then, you were tall if you were like 5'5". I'm 5'11", and I would have been considered a freak of nature. Now, this is where things get interesting, especially in revolves to Yamato's connection to Ace. Now, the thing Khutulun was probably most famous for was the fact that she would only marry a man who beat her in wrestling. This was kind of a deal she made with Kaido, because she didn't want any wimpy statesman. and many men tried to beat her. They had to wager 100 horses, and all of them failed. That's not to say Khutulun never got married. While there's no official record of that happening, there's also several records of it that she did marry, though the accounts differ. Some say she married the head of like a allied tribe, but most importantly and most interestingly, some say her husband was a handsome man who had been imprisoned after a failed assassination attempt on her father. Now, was said that Khutulun was impressed by his strength and his tenacity and asked her father to spare him, to which he did for his favorite child. So then we get back to Ace and Yamato. And let's go over what we know about Ace's time in Wano. We know he was there for several weeks, and that's pretty vague, but let's put it at about a month. Now, if Ace was there for that period of time, they would have needed more food for Onigashima village. He even at one point says, after he's seen Tama and all of the other village people eat their food, where he can go get them more, because he sees that they're starving. On top of that, if he was there for a period of time, they would have needed more food. Just because they would have. The Spade pirate ship could have only been carrying so much. So there's also the fact that when the Spade pirates finally left, they would have needed some more supplies. And there are two places in Wano that would have had abundant food and water. The Flower Capital and Onigashima. Now this is where the theory kind of splits off into two. The first is that he went to the Flower Capital because it's closer and got what he needed. Ironically, Luffy and co. would do something very similar in the arc. Now, Yamato, so I think it goes without saying that Ace wouldn't have had any issue dealing with Orochi or even any of his men. Hell, I could have probably, give me a super soaker filled with seawater and a machete and I could probably deal with Orochi. But I think we also would have heard of the story of some crazy, fiery guy wreaking havoc in the Flower Capital. But it's entirely possible he could have gone there, stolen what he needed, and brought it back. That would, of course, draw the ire of Orochi, who could have called up the Beast Pirates and was like, hey, this brat is wreaking havoc, come deal with him. So that would have what kind of brought the Beast Pirates down on Ace. Again, I'm not so sure this has happened, because that seems like something that would have come up in the story present, but who knows. Oda does like to hold things back and reveal them at the right time. But then again, he could have also gone, the other part of that theory is he could have just gone straight to Onigashima. If he had asked Tama, he'd know, why is Wano like this? Why is everyone starving? Why is the food, why is the plant life and animals tainted? She could have told him, she or any of the other village people could have told him. So there's this guy named Kaido, he's a pirate, and he and Orochi, the leader of the country, are basically setting up a bunch of factories and they're poisoning everyone and we're all hungry and dying. And he lives over there on Onigashima. Ace might have just decided to go for the big guy first, because if you look at the Ace novels and you consider them canon, and I think we should until Oda directly says something that contradicts them, we know Ace wanted to take out the big dogs. He wanted to go after the emperors to make a name for himself. He might have just decided to go straight for Onigashima, thinking that they could deal with Orochi later. And you might ask how he could have gotten over there because of the tides. But again, with the Ace novels, we know he already had Striker, that little fire ship, at the time. And that's pretty small and probably maneuverable enough to get to Onigashima without much of an issue. So Ace gets to Onigashima. He starts wreaking havoc, probably taking out a decent amount of, if not like higher members, at least plenty of fodder, because Ace, even at this time, was strong enough to fight Jinbei at a standstill for quite a bit of time. For several days. So Ace is wreaking havoc on Onigashima, and this is where basically a bunch of stuff could happen. It's entirely possible Kaido wasn't even there. He could have been off on one of his suicide vacations or at another island or, going went to the liquor store to stock up on sake. We know he's not always in Onigashima. So he could have, Ace could have just been stuck fighting some of the higher members. I believe there's actually, if you look at one of the flashback things, there is a calamity that appears not to exist in the current story. Some people think it was just a redesign of Queen, but that's also maybe not the case. So, 4 years ago, Ace was on Onigashima, and we know he had to have been on Onigashima when he met Yamato, because Yamato can't leave Onigashima. So, again, any variety of things could happen. Yamato could have seen Ace wreaking havoc and been like, oh god, he's going to get himself killed, interrupted him, and then, like, hid him away somewhere else on the island. The way Yamato talks when fighting Luffy is just like, you stubborn mule, but it's Luffy's kind of resistance to talking that does spark that initial, this reminds me of a battle from the past. And we know Ace was very stubborn. So, I think that is what initially reminds Yamato of Ace when interacting with Luffy. But yes, Yamato could have interrupted that fight. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Don't take on these people, you will die, and basically kind of gotten him out of the way and maybe hidden him from the rest of the Beast Pirates. Now, something interesting I noted is when reading different translations, when Yamato mentions this reminds me of a battle from the past, sometimes in some translations she just says battle, like singular, but in others she says battles, like multiple, like they fought multiple times. Now, this is a small difference, but it could have big ramifications. If it's battles, if they had multiple battles, that means Yamato and Ace would have had to been in close proximity for a period of time, not just like a one-off thing. Again, I don't know what the official translation says. I haven't checked it in a while. And again, this is just a straight video. So they could have just kind of hidden out. Ace may never have actually interacted with the rest of the Beast Pirates beyond that initial scuffle. And Yamato and Ace may have talked. Like, I doubt Ace would have initially been all that receptive to someone telling him, no, you cannot go fight that guy. But, again, if they had spent time together, they have kind of a lot of common. Yamato definitely seems to have some resentment for being the child of Kaido, especially after everything Kaido's done. And, you know, growing up hearing bad things, that your father is a horrible man, or at the very least knowing your father is a horrible man, seeing all the bad he's done, that's the kind of thing that weighs on you. And then you have Ace, who grew up believing he was in some way tainted or just bad, inherently bad, just by virtue of being Roger's son. And daddy issues bring people together like nothing else. So that could have led to them bonding. I will probably be doing a separate video of more of that, but a lot of things could happen. Ace could have revealed that he is Roger's son. And he almost, if they did spend time together, if they did develop some sort of relationship, I say relationship very ambiguously, because it could be romantic, and I think some people are definitely leaning that way. I'm definitely leaning that way. It'll be the subject of another video. But it could have just been platonic. But we know Ace talked about Luffy a lot to the people he knew. He talked about him to the Spade Pirates. He talked about Luffy to the Whitebeard Pirates. He talked about Luffy to Jinbei. He was very doting. He was like, kind of like Maze Hughes with his pictures of his daughter. Look at my younger brother. He's awesome. But they probably spent time together. But again, other things could have happened. Ace could have gone, if Kaido was there, Ace could have gone straight for him. Almost certainly failed taking him out. For some reason, I think assassination attempt on his home territory would have probably amused Kaido. It's like, finally, someone with some spirit. And he would have probably tried to make Ace his subordinate. And what does Kaido do to people he wants to make his subordinates? He throws them in prison to try and break them. So, again, you have that idea of a man who failed to assassinate Kaido getting thrown in prison. So you have that. And obviously Ace's spirit wouldn't have broken, and then maybe Yamato helped him escape, or in some way convinced Kaido to let him go. It's like maybe Yamato went to him and was like, hey, this Ace guy is pretty strong. If you let him go and let him gather his strength, in a few years he might be even a better opponent for you, a better fight. Because that's kind of what Kaido seems to want. He seems very bored with the world as it is. So someone who could potentially give him a decent fight would interest him. So then you have, or there's a couple of people saying that Ace might have been strong-armed into joining the Spade Pirates in some way. Mr. Moji, I think, did a really good video on it. Go watch it. So you have, at that point he would have been, why would Ace join the Spade Pirates? Who knows? Maybe he wanted something from them. Maybe his crew was threatened, because his crew was still on Wano with him. And we know what Kaido does to crews if their captain doesn't cooperate. So there's that possibility. Either way, he might have spent some time with Kaido, or in the vicinity of Kaido and Yamato, in which case they could have fought, they could have trained, sparred together, and they may have developed a close relationship, enough so that Yamato wanted to leave Wano with him, but couldn't because of the cuffs. Again, could this relationship have been romantic? Maybe. Could it have just been friendly? Also maybe. Either way, it's pretty tragic, especially since Yamato almost certainly knows that Ace is dead. Kaido definitely has access to the outside world, so she probably, at the very least, has seen a newspaper. That's also just something big that Kaido, even drunkenly, would have mentioned. And then you kind of have, like, the opposite tragedy of Tama. Tama was waiting for Ace not knowing he was dead, whereas Yamato had a friend who was somewhere out in the world and was in trouble that she couldn't go help because her father imprisoned her. It's kind of opposite tragedies. I also just want to mention quickly that it was kind of brilliant from a writing standpoint how Oda introduced Yamato, connecting her to Ace, because, you know, there's this big thing that's like, is Yamato going to be our next Straw Hat? Possibly. She needs to go through some character development first. But, you know, I think we all agree that Yamato is definitely going to be important from the story coming forward. And to get us to connect with her, to get us to basically care about the character, a very good way of doing that very quickly is to attach her to someone that the fans already know and care about, in this case Ace. It's a brilliant little bit of writing. It makes us interested in, well, how did they know Ace? What kind of relationship did they have? How does this affect the story moving forward? So, but at the end of the day, no matter what happened on Onigashima, we know that Ace did eventually leave Wano. But he also still had a intention to return. And that's been a big question. Why didn't Ace tell Whitebeard what was going on? Why didn't he come back with the Whitebeard pirates to help Wano? Sorry, my throat was dry. Some people think that this is just because Yamato presented herself as Odin to Ace and he never knew any different. So when he went back to the Whitebeard pirate, when he eventually did join the Whitebeard pirates, because this flashback, Ace was in Wano before joining the Whitebeard pirates. People wondered why he didn't tell, and he just told Whitebeard, if asked, if it ever come up. It's like, oh yeah, I met Odin. And Whitebeard wouldn't have known any different. I think that's kind of a cop-out. And Ace was kind of a goofball like Luffy, but he's definitely would be able to tell something's up. So I think it's more, Ace's story has a lot to do with promises. Promises made about Ace, promises made to Ace, promises Ace made to other people that didn't quite come true in the way they were initially intended. Ace promised Luffy he'd never leave him alone, and though Ace eventually died, it was his death that reawakened Sabo's memories. So Luffy still had his brother. So I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility, especially if Yamato and Ace did grow close, that there was some sort of mutual promise made between the two of them. Yamato kind of made Ace leave and was like, promise me you will not tell anyone what's going on in this island. If you tell someone, they might try and come and fix stuff, but it's not time yet. It's not time. 20 years haven't passed. It's not time for Orochi and Kaido to be overthrown. Ace might have promised, I'm going to come back in 4 years, I'm going to get stronger, I'm going to get a bigger crew, and then 4 years from now, I'm going to come back to kind of coincide with the prophecy, and I will help you save Wano. So some sort of mutual pact or promise that kept Ace from, it's like, hey, Kaido's wreaking havoc in Wano, he killed your brother Odin, let's go deal with him. So I think that's a solid possibility. But anyway, Ace did leave, but he did have a intention to come back. But of course, he didn't. He died. And everyone's still very sad. But 4 years later, who did show up? Ace's younger brother, Luffy. And Yamato definitely really wants to talk to Luffy about something. So, that's my theory. I planned on expanding on it somewhat with videos about whether or not Yamato and Ace could have been romantically involved, why Kaido was heading to Marineford, as well as just some other One Piece videos, and then hopefully reviews of the chapters as they come up after this unscheduled break we had to take for Oda's health. All right. Hope you enjoyed my first video. Again, I don't know anything about YouTube or making videos, so this was probably horrible. Peace out. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more One Piece content.